Welcome to the Social Stack, your go-to channel for marketing tips based in technology for your real estate business. I'm Amy Stack, and today we're doing the second half of our class on how to do 4 steps to get more listings in 2022. So we did steps 1 and 2 on my last class. For those of you watching, if you missed it, you can go ahead and click the card and it will take you to that first video. And today we're going to go over steps 3 and 4. So let me go ahead and get my screen shared for everybody. And can I just get a thumbs up? Can everybody see the pink and blue? Okay, great. Wonderful. All right. So this is exciting, right? It's just the first slide. All right. So like I said, last week we went over how to go small and how to strategically connect. So now we're going to go into how to go deep and how to do it consistently. Okay. Very exciting stuff, I know. All right, so first of all, we're just going to dive right in on going deep. I'm going to just remind everybody that we talked a lot about riches are in the niches. So that was how we identified going small. But now we know, now that we have that niche identified, we want to go into how you can go deep. And one of the ways that seemed to be really popular last year that was actually generating a lot of leads for people was by hosting different types of seminars. So for example, there's an agent out in New England who is very into sustainable living. So in order for her to go deep, she was hosting some seminars and she would partner with people outside of real estate. So maybe not outside of the whole industry, but people in networking groups that were also passionate about being sustainable. And she would present seminars that were not just first-time home buyer or sellers, right? She did one specifically on land trusts. She did a series about that and how that can be beneficial in a sustainable environment. And she connected with sustainability homeownership groups and found out from them what they were wanting to learn about and brought professionals in to help answer their questions. So I'm sure it could have varied from things like, what are things I can use in my home on a regular basis, like cleaning supplies, right? But then also what can I do home improvement wise to make my home more sustainable? And that could be more on like the solar power end, right? Getting those solar panels, that helps you be more sustainable. So she went and sought out those groups and found out what they were dying to learn about, and then was able to put a seminar together to educate them. And then they brought in their friends that had those same interests. So she did workshops with them as well. Another example, if you guys were on last week, we talked about Meg Dady, who kind of put this whole class together. Her niche is really young Chicago businesswomen. So when she does seminars, she would do things like smart women in business, financial planning for women, buying your first home, but targeting that specific audience. So those are ways that they were able to leverage these seminars to find the people that they knew were already in their niche. They were that ideal client avatar. So instead of just doing, again, like I said, first-time home buyer, how to sell your home, what to know when you're buying or selling, they went really deep and they found specific things that people in their niche wanted to learn and presented that information to them. Another panel I was at actually talked about this idea kind of adjacently, is they would have their seminar and they had a follow-up, leave a review, let us know what you thought about the class, but they always asked, what are other things you would want to learn about? And then they started doing that before the seminar. So when people RSVP'd, they would ask, what's the one question we can answer for you while you attend? So then they knew that they were hitting all the talking points that the people there were wanting to learn about. So people weren't, dozing off, or if they were doing it on Zoom, they weren't going, off camera, and they were there and participating. So those are some examples on how you can go deep specifically with seminars. The next thing I wanted to talk about was experiences. So a lot of people do client events, right? But how can we make a broad, big event something that's more specific to, again, your niche? You want to provide an experience that maybe they can't do easily on their own. So again, with Meg's group, she thought, well, what are some things that I like doing? Because she kind of fits the same client avatar as her clients were. She said, what do I like doing? But maybe I don't want to spend the money to do it. And came up with things like a crafting class, like a board and brush, Pinot's palette type of thing, or a wreath making class where they're a little bit on the higher end as far as price point to do those types of events. And she brought in an allied partner to help sponsor it, and then was able to also write it off. So she still got to do the activity, invited her friends, and had her friends invite friends that were interested in that, and was able to connect with people that were already in her sphere, and then actually grow her database because they invited somebody else to that same event. So that was one type of idea for the experience. There were people that had talked about doing like golf or tennis events, something around sporting, beer, wine, whiskey tasting things. Somebody mentioned a coffee tasting. And then a lot of people that worked with families did events like holiday photos or family photos. So they would work with a photographer, and if it's around the holiday, Santa, Easter Bunny, something like that, come, and they would have like snacks or little crafts for the kids, but the agents would provide these photos to the families. So again, they would invite their sphere, it'd be a client event, and a lot of times they would actually invite people to then invite a secondary party. Oh, I see a question came in the chat. Angie said she hired a chef from Italy and did a Zoom cooking class that was a huge hit. Yes, I remember when you did that. That was awesome. But that was especially during when everything was shut down. That was a really cool way to get people involved because the chef came and was on camera and everybody zoomed in, right, Angie? So they were able to follow along in their own kitchens and learn how to cook a delicious meal.
Yeah, they got an email ahead of time with all the list of ingredients. So it was a huge hit. I still have people talking about it a year later.
Right. It was awesome. I love that idea. So, if you guys are into doing, if events is how you run your business and how you are connecting with your sphere, connect with other people doing them. Another way that you can help with this experience thing is connect with an agent, not only just for ideas, but sometimes like when you're doing the Santa and the Easter Bunny photos or the family photos, you're throwing a bigger event, but maybe it's too much for you as a solo agent to manage on your own. So you can partner with a couple of other solo agents, and you just need to set the guidelines up ahead of time as, these are my clients and anybody that they bring are my clients, right? Just have that all laid out on how the logistics will work like that, and then co-brand everything. And then obviously you need to follow up, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but you need to follow up with all those people as well so that they don't get lost in the shuffle. But by sharing an event like that with a couple of solo agents, you guys can all share the cost as well. So that's the beautiful thing about the culture here, right? We're not worried about people stealing each other's leads. So that was a little bit about experiences. But again, remember, just think about who is that ideal client, what are they looking for, and what can you provide to them, an experience that they might not easily be able to do on their own, and how can you make that part of your lead gen or follow-up or client touches. So that's a little bit about the experience side. And going even deeper on experiences, has anybody heard of micro events? No? Okay. So again, Meg's example on this was the fact that she knows that the people in her group, they like to go get blow dries and manis and petties, stuff like that. So they're already doing these activities regularly, and she likes to do them too. So instead of just scheduling an appointment for herself, she would book a salon for, 3 to 5 people. She would reach out to a couple of her people that were in her sphere to invite them to come with her and tell them to invite a friend or two. And here's the thing. They all paid for themselves. They're already doing these services regularly. This is just a way to get them together, to get that introduction, and to start building that relationship. And like I said, this was an activity Meg was already doing for herself. So she was able to turn something that was already on her calendar into a lead gen activity. So this is the part I thought would be a great idea to open up to you guys with. What are some things that you already do or you want to be doing regularly that you could maybe open up and invite some clients to come participate with you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Oh, I heard a mic. Who was it? I don't know.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Patty.
with the micro events, the thought that comes to my mind is enticing someone to come do that with you. I know it's something they're going to do anyway, but how do you pull them in that it would be more fun for you to have a mani-pedi with 3 of your friends than doing it by yourself? Do you know what I mean? The fact that,
like that. That's all you have to say. Like, let's do it together. I said just exactly what you said. It's more fun to do it with somebody else, right? So you're going to start with typically, we've talked about this in the past too, is that typically you're going to have some like big supporters in your group, right, that are raving fans. And those are, if you're having a hard time getting people to come to these events, start with those people. Those are also influencers. So they'll bring somebody else in, and then they'll in turn be able to help you find more people that are raving fans and like participating with you. Patty, I don't know why this just popped in my head, but I was thinking, what about like a gardening club, right? That could be somebody that would reach out to that would touch your sphere. So something like that, where even if it's a neighborhood garden or it's people just getting together to talk about, you know, plants, vegetables, maybe sharing vegetables that they've grown themselves. It's not necessarily going to a salon and getting a service done, but it's a way to connect and then get other people to be brought into that sphere as well. Meg said that her goal for these micro events was to do them 2 to 4 times a month. So, you know, once a week at the most. And she was able to grow her database, probably 2 to 5 people a month just by doing these events. And not only is she growing her database, she's working on that relationship with people that are already in it, right? It's just another touch for those people. So that was the micro events. And then I know what everybody was really wanting to dig into was the marketing side of it. And that goes under the category for me of being consistent, right? And we talk about this in social media, in all kinds of lead gen. The whole point, or I guess not point, but the biggest thing you have to do, no matter what we're talking about in your business, you have to be consistent, right? Even if we're talking about the transaction side of things, being consistent with how you go through your processes will help you stay on top of things and help your clients understand better on what they need to be expecting. And, you know, I'm going to go back 1 slide because I saw some stuff came in the chat. And Tasha said she has her own women's fashion brand. She's currently rebranding to add more items, and she's looking to see how she can bring real estate into it for some type of event. That's a great question. We actually just had a couple of agents work with a boutique in our area, and they did a fashion show in our office. So they were able to work with a local restaurant to cater it, so supporting local. They got the boutique, which in this case would be your fashion brand, to have clothes to do a fashion show, and they used the office to actually host it. So that brought in the real estate aspect, and then all of their materials said, you know, sponsored by, hosted by the real estate office information or the agent and their branding. So yeah. See if that'll work for you, Tasha. Talk to your office. If whenever you guys can use your offices as a venue, do it. It's free, right? Parks outside are great places when the weather's right. But yeah, you don't have to go rent out big halls or restaurants. See what you can do with what's already at your fingertips. And then Angie said, if there's a book you want to read, ask your sphere if anyone wants to get a book club together. Yes, we'll together discuss the book. But yeah, a mini book club without the pressure of the meeting all the time. Yes, that is perfect. I love that idea, Angie. I'm in a book club too, and I don't always read the books, but I go because I want to hang out with my friends. I'm like, I'm not interested in this, but I'm interested in you, so I'm coming anyways. So book club's a great idea, and you could do all sorts of different stuff with that, right? You can do business book clubs, you can do fun ones, you can do a theme like a murder mystery, whatever it is you want, whatever your people are interested in, that's what you should recommend. So thank you for sharing those ideas, everyone. All right, so let's get back to being consistent. I know a lot of people wanted to know more about the marketing and the branding, and I know that that seems like, I get that you have to be consistent, but how does that fall into this? So that's why I said, number 1 is your timing. You want to be consistent with your timing. You want to make sure that you are being regular with whatever, if we're doing events, most of the stuff today we talked about has been events, but you want to make sure that you're doing it systematically, whether it's, you know, once a month, or like the third Thursday of a month. One story was shared about somebody who moved into a new neighborhood, an agent moved into a new neighborhood, and there was a Mary Kay lady in town. And she did a ladies' night every third Thursday of the month. Well, the neighborhood just kept growing and growing and growing. And the Mary Kay lady kind of just stopped organizing this event. The ladies in the neighborhood were pretty used to it. It had died off for a little while, but the agent decided she was going to take it over. It didn't have to be Mary Kay. She just hosted something at a local business. She just organized a place for these women to get together because it was something they were missing. They were used to that third Thursday of the month. So what she had done was went to different local businesses, whether it was restaurants or again, talking about those like crafting places. She just facilitated the evening and advertised it. One of the things that she did was started a neighborhood Facebook group. So there was already a Facebook page. I might be reversing these. There was either a page or a group and she made the other one. So she owned the one that she made and was able to control all of the information that was going out to it and allowing people to join or like it. So she was, I think it started with the page and she made the group herself. So she could control who was joining the group and the conversation that was going on in it. And she just made sure that every third Thursday there was something going on in the neighborhood, and then that really grew. So she just started with a once a month event and then found out what the needs were. Well, okay, third Thursday for ladies' night. Well, how do we get in touch with the guys, right? So then she organized a men's event and it just grew from there. And part of that was all of her marketing and branding, right? People saw as she was putting these events together that it was always hosted by the same person. I get lots of questions about when I do events, what should I put out? Should I have giveaways? You know, how do people know it's me? You don't necessarily have to throw up your brand on them, right? They'll know that you're the one hosting it as long as your stuff is branded while you're sending it out, right? So any invitations you're sending out, anything that you're putting on Facebook or email or flyers, if you're door knocking, make sure it's all saying presented by or hosted by or sponsored by in your name or your team name. Okay, so you need to stay consistent with that. Oops, I just activated Siri. 1 second. Apparently consistent is too close to her name. You want to stay consistent with your branding so that people identify or connect with the fact that you're the one always doing these events. And then when they have questions, whether it's about real estate or the events, they're going to come to you. So that's how she found the need, is because she was the one organizing all of these events. And then the women started coming to her saying, hey, my husband or my brother or my friend, whatever, they want something too. Can you do something for them? So then she organized another event for the guys.
So Amy,
yes.
So then you're not necessarily talking about real estate at all when you're at the event. You're just consistently being out there as someone that's bringing value to the neighborhood, for example.
That is correct. So in this case, that's a great point that you brought up. Some of the stuff we talked about were the seminars, right? That is very real estate specific. You're talking about real estate at the event. These types of events that she was doing were really concentrating on her niche was a specific area. It wasn't single moms. It wasn't businessmen, right? It was anybody that lived in this neighborhood. So how can she provide a value to the whole neyborhood? So that's a different spin on it. If you guys really farm deep at a high level, that's kind of funny. These are some things you could do. And she, like you said, Patty, would do all of her branding around the event and not really talk about real estate. Now, would it come up naturally in conversation? Of course. She also had registration, like lead capture forms essentially at every event. So anybody that attended, whether they've already are in the database or are new to her, would have to fill out this information. And one of the things I always recommend when you're doing something like that is to have a question on it that says, would you be interested, or something along these lines? Would you be interested, or actually, let me say it differently. Before I say the question, does anybody ever get those email newsletters and it's like, do you also want to have this, this, and this, and you have to check all these boxes or uncheck all of them? And we all want to say no, right? I see everybody nodding. You always want to say, no, I don't want that. That's like an inherent thing that people want to say no. So if you phrase the question differently, you're still getting, it's permission-based marketing, but you're giving them the no while still getting the yes. So instead of saying, do you want this? You say something like, would you be offended if I sent you stats about your neighborhood every month? They can still say no, right? But that's giving you the yes to go ahead and send the information. So think about stuff like that, how you can twist that around where they can still say no, but then you can still get them on your list. So add a question about, getting them on a neighborhood update or a home equity analysis or a CMA, something like that. Put some sort of question like that on that sign-in form so that you can have something to follow up with them. And if you're doing the neighborhood stats, that's a monthly touch. And if you're using Command, that's something that it will generate and send out for you automatically every month. So it's not even something you have to keep up with. So you just use the monthly neighborhood nurture and off it goes. Other systems have stuff like that too. Angie, I know you have Brivity. You've got something like that in Brivity. So utilize the technology that you guys have access to. So that's a little bit about the marketing and branding. Make sure to, keep it simple, right? You don't want to be throwing up on the neighborhood, right? With all of your marketing. Otherwise, then people just kind of tune you out. This team, a lot of people were asking questions about like, well, you're doing all these events, how you must have a huge team. She started as an individual agent, no admin or anything. At this point, she's got 3 agents, an admin, and an event specialist, and they're running 36 events a year. So that's with 5 people. They're running 36 events a year, and they've grown into more neighborhoods as well. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about that I did mention to you a little bit is your follow-up, right? You have to be consistent with your follow-up as well. You need to have that lead capture form. So 1, you know who came, right? And 2, you can follow up with them. If it's somebody who is already in your database, you want to reach out and say thank you for coming. If it's somebody who was not in your database, you want to say thank you for coming and how can I serve you, right? What can I do to be of value to you? If somebody came from somebody already in your database, you want to make sure that you're thanking the person in your database for inviting a friend. You also know through these lead captures at the event who didn't attend. So you can also reach out to the people that didn't make it and say, so sorry I missed you. So that way you're touching them either way, whether they came or not. And think about it, once you've got your system in place with all the different steps you're doing to market the event and to follow up after the event, even though it's only one event, how many touches have you just done? And was any of it asking about business? No, but it was reminding people that you are there to support them and provide value to the community or, whatever the resource is, right? And let's see, post-event, some of the most popular things that people were doing for follow-up were doing that thank you for coming or sorry we missed you, and they were sending an email, a bulk email, so you could tag your people in Command or whatever system you're using saying, attended ladies' night, missed ladies' night, and then you just go by those tags to send, okay, the people that attended get the email, thank you so much for coming, this is when our next one is, we'd love to have you again, please bring a friend. And then you could do one like, so sorry we missed you. Here's some event photos. We'd love to have you at the next one, right? People also called through their database. So they were giving personal touches to people that did attend. Most people that called after the fact only called the people that were actually able to make it, just because you only have so much time. So you want to focus that time on the people that are already responding to you. Other people would door knock before and after the event as well. So especially if you're doing like a neighborhood event like this, they would go door knock, let people know that this was going on. And after the event, if somebody missed it and there was some sort of like tchotchke or giveaway, they would door knock and leave it like, so sorry we missed you. Here's a fun little pop socket or something, right? Again, with that, you don't want to go too overzealous with it because you don't want to reward the bad behavior, right? If somebody's not coming to your events consistently, what's the motivation to get them to come other than them having a fun time, which is great. But if they want all the fun swag and you're just delivering it to them every time after the event, why would they, come to the event? in the first place. So just keep that in mind. If it's a VIP that you know was out of town or got sick, or you know somebody said they were coming and something came up, they're probably worth a knock and saying, you know, we're so sorry we missed you. You know, thank you for all your support in the past. I was thinking of you and I wanted to provide you know, whatever our giveaway was for the evening. And just because I know that you're such a good supporter, right? Stuff like that. Always posting, if you have a Facebook group or there's a community group or page, posting pictures about the event. You always want to do that because again, that's going to be a way to get your branding out there and just remind people that you're the one providing this value to that area. So those were the main topics. So I want to open it up for questions to see what you guys think. And I'm going to put in the chat right now. Meg actually shared her exact event plan outline for marketing. So I'm going to drop that in the chat box right now. It's a PDF, so you guys can all see that. There's a lot more detail in there. But I want to hear what your thoughts and questions are. Tasha said, thank you. Let me turn off screen share. I want to see all your faces. No questions? We did that good of a job? You don't have any questions today? All right, well, we did mention a lot of things technology-based. We mentioned forms, we mentioned Facebook, we mentioned emails, we mentioned QR codes. So I had mentioned all that last week as well. I do want to let you guys know that I have videos on pretty much all of that stuff on my YouTube channel. And for those of you in the E2P group that I'm part of, we do run command on demand 9 hours a week. And pretty much all of us know all of those things. So you can always bring your questions to that. If you're like, oh, I don't know how to start a Facebook group, or how do I make a QR code? Come ask us and we'll show you how to do those things as well. Okay. Wow, look at that, right on the button. It's 10:59, you guys. So I'm gonna...
It looks like somebody had a question right above your document that you uploaded about sign forms.
Thanks, Angie. Let me take a look at that. For the sign up forms, when you do a normal sheet or like, oh, good question. I am a big fan of the Google Forms. Thanks, Angie. So Google, you can do in Command, you can make lead capture forms, and in Google, you can do Google Forms. The lead capture forms in Command are just simple, like first name, last name, phone, email, that type of thing. With the Google form, you can get more specific with your questions in there, where you can ask about wanting to be part of, you know, your monthly neighborhood nurture. You can ask, did somebody refer you to this event? Who was it? That way, you know, to go thank that person for bringing them to your event. But those are the two that I recommend the most. And you can always make a QR code to open that form up so that you can just have a little flyer with that code that people can scan. That way, there's no touching anything. Nobody needs to, you know, be sharing pens. You don't have to filter through all this paperwork, and it actually will all either go into your database or right into Google and have a spreadsheet with all of that information easily accessible and ready to pull up for you as well. Nice and easy to filter through or export into your database. Great question. Well, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. So, oh, wait, another question? Nope, not yet. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording.